Hi folks, Dr. Sarah here. Today I wanted to talk to you a little bit about children and students. It's really important that we take care of our kiddos as well because a lot of times their mental health is our mental health and vice versa. And a lot of the videos that I've made so far have really focused on how to manage our own pain and our own symptoms as adults. So the first thing that you should know is that a lot of this stuff really transfers over to children and students. But we're going to talk a little bit today about specifically what we can do for our littles. To begin with, I should say that in general, kids shouldn't be in pain. Most kids should not have pain. It's very simple. And if your child or your student has pain, if they're reporting pain on a consistent basis, it's really important that you have them talk to their doctor and or their chiropractor because that's not normal. It is normal for our students, especially as they age, to start having pain, unfortunately. Or maybe I should say it's the norm for our students to start feeling pain, but it's not normal. So here's what we can do. Here's a few ideas that we can work with, particularly as we transition into this homeschooling lifestyle. So to begin with, we want to limit it as much as possible before it even starts. So prevention is really key here for our students. The first thing that I would say is really beware of kiddos spending a lot of time on couches and beds and soft, squishy surfaces. They're so comfortable, but they really cause us to melt and slouch and end up in little pretzels of pain. I've talked about this before and I will say it again. You really need to beware of spending all day on the couch or the bed. Instead, what you could do is maybe take some extra pillows and create a little study space or a quiet corner or a corner of the bed gets built up with pillows so that they have a comfortable way to sit up and do their work. That's going to be more beneficial and less problematic than, say, laying on their stomachs with their, devices propped up in front of them, spending a lot of time with a lot of extension in their neck and back. That's really going to tighten up the muscles in the neck and shoulders and can start causing headaches. Another thing that you could do is if they are working at a workstation like a table or a desk or something like that, you could look for a way to prop up anything that they have to read so they're not hunched over. A lot of our students spend a lot of time really hunched and curled forward, and that over time can be too much. It would be for you and I as well. They're a little bit more tolerant, but in general, we want to limit the amount of time that we spend completely flexed and curled. Same thing, it's going to overstretch those muscles and cause pain and tightness. So if we can prop up what they're reading and looking at, that's great. Another one is that a lot of students will do that tip their paper, tip their head to write thing. And over time, this becomes really problematic. And a lot of times when I adjust students with neck and shoulder pain, you can almost tell just from touching them which way they like to tip their head when they write. So it could be as simple as you could put a piece of tape on the table that they would line their papers up with to keep their papers nice and stable and straight. You want to make sure that they have enough space because it might not be comfortable to write directly in front of themselves, so maybe they do need to move their paper over a little bit. A lot of the things that we've discovered as adults through trial and error, we can shift and give to them so that they can error a little bit less. Because right now we need to stack the deck into our favor, not against it. The next thing that I'm going to say should come as no surprise to anyone who has listened to me for 30 seconds, and it is water, water, water. Our students need water too, just like us, and just like adults, water is going to help them decrease their tightness, decrease their pain, decrease their risk of injury, and increase their body's adaptability and healing time. You can do the math and figure out exactly how much water they should be drinking, but the general message is, unless you have a medical condition that stops you from drinking water, just drink more water. It's really helpful. Keep a water glass handy or a water bottle or whatever their favorite device is. If your kid likes drinking out of a straw, just get them a straw. Do what you can to encourage them to drink water. It is going to make a difference. If we get to the point that your student does have some pain, you can absolutely do a little bit of gentle massage. While kids have all the same muscles as adults, they're much thinner. So just like you would use less ice or less heat or less time, you'd use less pressure. Instead of thinking about pressing deep into the muscle the way that you might with an adult, you'd want to think about just touching the muscle in kids, no matter how strong or tough or tight they are, and that will be enough pressure. And of course, always be gentle and take it easy, and always respect their autonomy of their own body. If they say it's too much or they're not interested, then that's it.
It wouldn't be therapeutic or helpful to continue if they're not receptive. No treatment is worth ignoring their wishes, ever.
Another really important thing that you can do is go outside for 20 to 30 minutes every single day. Research has actually shown that 30 minutes of time spent in nature can decrease cortisol, which is a hormone that increases when we're in stress and has a lot of ramifications to our overall physical health. Similarly, it also increases GABA in our brain. GABA is a neurotransmitter that sort of smooths and soothes the neurons of the brain and can help decrease stress overall and quiet the mind and increase the mind's ability to be calm and restful. So 20 to 30 minutes of time spent in nature or outside every single day, if you're able to, can have a profound effect on your overall mental health. There's other ways you can work with your neurology and improve your mental health and therefore physical health. One simple one is just breathing. There's so much wonderful information about mindfulness and children and youth, and breathing is a great way to start thinking about and practicing mindfulness. One thing that we do in our family is we have a morning meeting every day, and we take time in that meeting to feel a breath come in and out of our body. It's very grounding and very peaceful. And sometimes we practice that at bedtime as well if we're having a hard time quieting the mind and getting ready to sleep. We're also a big fan of affirmations in our house. Our bathroom mirror always has at least one, usually two affirmations written down. I think right now there are things like, I don't know what this is, but I know I'll figure it out. And there is nothing that I have not overcome. There is nothing that I will not overcome. You can choose whatever words you want, but for us, we try to choose words about resiliency and how we know that we will be okay, because that's easy to forget. And I think for our children, and especially our little ones who are struggling with how abstract this is, it's really hard to understand it. It's hard for us to understand it too. So anything we can do to remind them, pictures on the mirrors, whatever it is, if they stand in front of that mirror twice a day brushing their teeth, give them something good to look at besides their reflections. And then when it comes to bedtime, we like to take a moment to practice gratitude, to list things that we're thankful for, and again, to do that breathing to just come back into our bodies. It might be necessary right now for bedtime routines to be a little bit more mindful, a little bit more purposeful than just, all right, guys, have a good night, see you in the morning. We're not really there right now. We need help quieting our minds. Think about how much, perhaps you even, have had to struggle to sleep. I know I'm getting a lot of comments from patients who are really struggling with their sleep health right now. So our kids are as well. So bringing in some gratitude, some mindfulness, some breathing, or a guided walkthrough of a muscle melt, I call it, where I'll say, okay, lay still, close your eyes, and I'll walk them through, take a breath and feel your toes relax. And then your ankles get loose, and then your calves, and I'll work my way up the body so that they just feel warm and relaxed and sort of melt into the bed and hopefully melt into sleep a little bit easier. Now, unfortunately, consistency doesn't have to be perfect here, but it is key. And that's hard. And I'm going to be honest with you. It's not easy, and it's another thing that falls on our shoulders as the parents and the adults in this equation. But to help you understand, I'm going to tell you a story about Brussels sprouts. When my son was barely old enough, I don't even think he could see over the kitchen counters, his favorite vegetable was roasted Brussels sprouts. And the reason is, my favorite vegetable is roasted Brussels sprouts. And so what would happen is I'm the primary cook in the family, and so every night I would be prepping dinner and getting ready to plate things, and I'd slide the Brussels sprouts out of the oven, leave them there, and I'd start, getting dinner ready to put on the table, and inevitably I would pop a few Brussels sprouts into my mouth. Well, my son would toddle into the kitchen and caught me eating them, and he wanted to know what I was doing. And so I kind of laughed at having been caught, and I said, oh, I'm sneaking some vegetables. And in his little tiny voice, he said, I sneak vegetables? And so I gave him some Brussels sprouts, and this became our routine. It became a thing that we did, like a secret joke that just the two of us knew. Every single night, it didn't matter what I made. If it was roasted and it was a vegetable, he would eat it like candy. And we would do it together and we would laugh together. And it got to the point that my husband pulled me aside after dinner one night and was like, what is with you? Why are you not making him eat his vegetables at dinner anymore? He's barely having any. And I, of course, had to laugh, and I said, well, he's already had a serving and a half before we even sit down at the table. Now, I share this story with you because it really is up to us. If you want your student to have success with anything that I've said, if you want your student to join you on that walk or take that 30-second stretch break with you, or whatever it is, if you want them to work on their own muscles, their own posture, or drink their water, you've got to do it too. And I'm really sorry to say that, because if you're like me, some days you don't have it together. Some days I'm barely keeping my head above water. And that's okay. That's kind of expected right now. But unfortunately, this has to be one of the things that we try on. And we don't have to knock it out of the park every single day. We're not going to. That's not a normal expectation. But if we want to see our children and our students survive, we have to prioritize their mental and physical health. And that can be with the videos that I've been sharing. As you've noticed, a lot of the things that work for adults are analogous to kiddos. And with just a little bit more, we can increase our own mental health and their mental health as well by adding in a little bit more activity, a little bit more outside, a little bit more breath, a little bit more space. And I know that I find that when I do this for myself, it's good. But when I do it for my kids, then I do it. Then I really practice it and I really am present for it. And then it's great. And it really affects our overall health for the family. So these are my ideas for you. I hope that they help. Let me know if you have any questions. And please, like I said, if you have a kiddo who's consistently complaining about something being in pain, you need to take them to, or you need to contact a doctor or a chiropractor and have them get some help. But feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions, and hopefully this will be helpful.